if you want to become somebody who runs their own business, then you must be willing to deal with failure. Do something out of the norm at least once a month. Best thing for an entrepreneur, being able to listen to what a client is saying and be able to realize what the client needs and sell it to them. Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode in the season, under the season 1 of the Ethel Kofi Startup Show, Ethel Kofi Startup School. My name is Ethel Kofi and you're welcome. Now, if you are new to the show, you've caught us at the very tail end, but there are lots of videos on YouTube. If you go to Ethel Kofi on YouTube or Paul's Ghana on YouTube, you should be able to find the articles. But if you're the videos, but if you're new here, let me tell you a little bit about what the Ethel Kofi Startup School is not, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what it is. So, what the Ethel Kofi Startup School is not. It's a motivational program or a feel-good program of entrepreneurship. It's not here to say you can do anything positive. It is a practical MBA on how to start and grow your entrepreneurial ambitions and ideas. And the dream here and the ambition here is to be able to touch at least 10,000 over the next couple of years, 10,000 entrepreneurs across Africa. So we hope you're tuned in and listening. Now, if you believe that there's somebody that could really benefit from listening to the topic of growing your entrepreneurial endeavors, please by all means either comment their names in the section or share out. Share it to your timeline so that people will know that you're actually sharing really cool stuff and you yourself are paying attention to cool stuff. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that. While we're at it, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've done during the season. So when we started the season, we really did want to just to work with entrepreneurs that were within the first sort of 6 months to 2 to 3 years of the entrepreneurial adventure, and really be truthful and honest in sharing what is needed to run a business, right? And sharing the psychological issues, the problems, the emotional highs and lows, and the practical things around marketing and sales that you need to run a business. So in the last 14 seasons, we've talked about the first month, we really talked about psychologically getting ready for business, right? So how do you become resourceful? How do you put yourself in that right frame of mind of being an entrepreneur? How do you deal with failure? How do you get, because all entrepreneurs will tell you that most of the hard work in entrepreneurship is psychological, right? So you've got to prepare yourself and be ready. And then we went on and had a lot of we had a long series on customer development and problem development, right? So finding your niche, discovering your customers, and finding out whether the problem that you really want to solve with your product is worth it to your customers. We also talked about how to find your type of customers. We went on to do a whole month, which is the last month, a whole month on sales. So how do you create about your niche? How do you prepare for a face-to-face meeting with a client? How do you deal with sales objections? If you haven't watched that episode, please go on Ethel Kofi on YouTube and really watch that episode on dealing with sales objections, because that's what's you're going to get quite a lot when you're in a meeting with a client or trying to sell to people. Yes, but I don't have money. Yes, but your competitor offers a lower cost for a better product. All these things. So we spent the last season really just focusing on what I call the entrepreneurial seekers, right? So people who are really early in their journey and are looking for answers to the questions that they're dealing with in their daily life as an entrepreneur. And I want to believe, just from the feedback, and I want to believe that we really made an amazing impact. We get they're learning, how they're applying it to their business. We now have a WhatsApp group, which has 200 something people in it, where before even we do the videos, we do a discussion on the topic of the day. And as the season winds down, that WhatsApp group will become more of a peer mentoring platform. And so we will engage people to maybe put together sort of one case study on their particular issue, and we can crowdsource answers and work to help different businesses. So I think you can reach out to me at contact@ethelcoffee.com with a phone number, and somebody in my team will just add you to the WhatsApp group. So we're about to start the final episode. Can you hear the noise and the whatever, the noise in the background? So as always, I give away a book. This week I decided that this is a book that I'm actually giving all the CEOs that I work with at the Delta. I have a box of these books that I'm giving away to them. So I thought I would give it out to the entrepreneurial seekers of the Ethel Coffee Startup School. I think this book has been touted as innovation in our time. It's written by, even though it's actually published by Harvard Business Press, but it's written by, I think, a Stanford. He has a yearly school he does for companies all over the world, and it's extremely hard to get in, and it's extremely competitive, and top companies over the world send their executives to go sit with them. And he wrote a book on how to create, the premise of the book is really that don't go into a market that there's already so many people. Create your own market, create your own niche, and there are certain tools he gives you here. So I will ask a question at the end of the series, and whoever gets that question right will then be able to win this book. At some point, I actually want to go spend time with Chan Kim and Renee Morborn. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. I would also love to go be part of the sort of the Stanford thing. But so here we go. Wait, if you listen intently, take a paper and pen, write everything out. If you listen intently, I will ask a question, and at the end of the program, just based on what I've said, and if you answer it, you're the first to answer it and answer it right, then you'll be able to walk away with the book. You pick them up at Paul's Ghana. Unfortunately, it's only open to our viewers in Ghana, even though this program is watched all over Africa. Okay, so I wanted to talk, I really thought about what would be the last episode in the season, what I wanted to share as the last episode in the season. It's going to be maybe shorter than most of the things that we've done in the season. I wanted to share sort of my lessons and my journey in continuously pushing myself to do better and be better, and the thinking that allows me to keep doing these projects, right? So let me give you an example of something that I've done just on, which is more recent, so it's on a larger scale. Going after starting Women in Tech Africa, which is my foundation, starting from a small group here in Ghana, and now running, essentially we run an annual, the last year event brought together over 12,000 women globally. So this is physically and online, which is, it's a Women in Tech, a festival of ideas. And this year we had 28 events in 14 countries. And when I said to my team a couple of years ago that I want us to build and run an event that has 400 events in 40 countries globally, they were shocked. They didn't think we could do it. but we've done it twice, and every year we keep increasing. And I know by our third or fifth year we would have hit the mark. But what enables me to be so confident in our ability to do more and be more? So I just wanted to share with you. I think every entrepreneur needs that. Somebody there was a report that somebody wrote, and they of me, and one of the things they said in the report is Ethel always punches above her weight class, because she's always dreaming big and pushing harder. So I did want to just impart that with you. I felt like I'm still thinking about whether we do a season 2, but I would love to. I just want to leave you with this as you sort of go on. So let me give you what the structure it is, right? So first of all, even before, over time, I now have a repertoire of things that I can point to that seemed impossible that I've done, right? So out of Ghana festival events, 14 countries, 28 events. Last year we did China. And when I said it to people felt like they were not. I was not, they didn't think we were capable of sitting in Ghana and being able to make those events happen. Or the fact that I've been invited to Oxford to speak on entrepreneurship in Africa. So when this plays, it probably will happen. I would have been on stage with the First Lady of Suriname to talk about entrepreneurship in Africa. Always pushing, always trying to get there. So my first framework, which is the number one thing, is to convince myself that I can do this. Now, that's where it's fun, right? For instance, the Women in Tech idea, when I wanted to become a global speaker, I convinced myself. I sat there. I didn't entertain the thought of, I couldn't possibly do it. I just convinced myself that I could do it. And maybe that's who I am, but that's something you can inculcate in yourself. Just continuously convince yourself of your bravado and your ability to make something happen. And I think that's where the battle is mostly, because when we feel like we cannot, or we don't have the capacity, then we don't even try. But when we convince ourselves, first of all, I think you're the first person you must convince. Convince yourself that look at all the things you've been able to achieve by yourself as an individual. Everybody has a story of something that they thought they couldn't do, and they did it anyway. They were able to achieve it anyway. And in order to convince myself, I tend to catalog those stories in my head, right? So I tend to, remember when I failed my secondary school exams, and I promised myself I would go to university and I'll be top of my class. And I did that. So that gives me a little bit of confidence. So part of convincing yourself really is essentially reminding yourself of the things that, even if it's a smaller scale, right? Reminding yourself constantly of the things that you have been able to do in the past, and bringing your mind to this place. I think the mantra is that those who believe that they cannot, and those who believe that they can are all telling the truth, because it's what you believe in. So the first thing I do is convince myself. Next thing is I make a plan. So convincing yourself is not enough. Convincing yourself that, I can do this. Like, that's why I said, I thought the Ethel Coffee Startup School has never been about motivational feel good, right? Because you need a plan. So now you feel like you can do it, but if you're going to sleep on it, which is what happens every time 31st night happens and we go to church, the Christians among us, we go to church and we hear preaching and we're all hyped up about the possibilities of, 2017, 2018, and we get all excited, and then we don't make a plan, right? We just come home and sort of are convinced that we can do it, but don't do it. So make a plan. Not a complicated plan. I think even I actually advise that you write a whole business plan. Write one page, because actually, unless you're going to go and get a loan, there's no need to have a long business plan. If you're not getting a loan, just have one page. What problem you're trying to solve, what type of customer you're trying to reach, what's your customer acquisition plan, and what, just off the back of the cuff budget, right? Make a plan and say within the next 12 months, every month I'm going to do, I don't know, month A, I'm going to test my problem. I'm going to test the product on a customer. Month B, and so, but you would have actually inched to building your business more. And here I'm concentrating on people that are actually might be in a job, might have a job right now, and I've been really toying with this. Oh, I'm gonna go start my own business. Like start. Just if you convince yourself that you are able to run a multi-million-dollar business, then start. Make a plan. Now, which is always the fun part of this is when I make a plan. Surprise, surprise, things don't go as planned. This is constant. Like in all the stories, even the story I tell about the Women in Tech Week Festival. We had a whole plan, and at some point, I think we were 2 months the event. We hadn't asked we hadn't signed up sponsorships. Then we had chapter leads in the countries that we're going to, and some people started to drop out. So you might have a great plan. Then you start to implement the plan, and then things don't go as planned. It's normal. It happens to everybody. I think if things are always going as planned, you might be worried. In everything that you want to achieve, in everything, if it is that you're trying to run your business, you're trying to leave your job to start a business, whichever way you want to do it, understand that there will always be what you call plot twists, right? Something will go wrong. Something will badly not work. Understand that it happens, and understand that you are capable and able to solve the issues that come. You're able to find a way around it. And usually when that happens, like I always tell people, this week I was telling a couple of friends that all my entrepreneur friends, I've said to them, buy the blood pressure machine. You should definitely buy the one that checks your blood pressure. Definitely buy it and keep it and definitely buy it and keep it and test your blood pressure like 2 to 3 times a week, to be honest, because I think it's useful to know. It's useful to know whether or not how your health is being impacted. Now, in the stress of things not going well, what most likely happens is you dream of giving up. It's normal. Understand that it's a normal part of the process of pushing your comfort zone and doing something that you yourself have never done before. Have your ambitions all of a sudden. Everybody, especially if you're leading the charge or leading the project yourself, everybody's looking for your direction, and you almost feel like, I wish I hadn't done this. That's fine. It happens to everybody. Every time we've launched a big project and people have come up and said, wow, you guys have blown our minds, I always say to people, you have no idea what my blood pressure is at this point or what we've done to get to this point. It's a normal path. You never do your entrepreneurial ambitions. Guess what? There will be times you wish. Look, I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs across the spectrum. There are people that are doing extremely well that still have days where they wish they hadn't started their business. It's normal. It will pass. I'm going to remind you again of the book. So it's also published by the Harvard Business School. blue ocean strategy, which is about creating new markets and creating new niches. Sometimes it's really hard to go into an existing market and thrive, and it makes sense to set yourself apart and be different by creating a new market for yourself. So I will ask a question at the end of the day, and whoever answers the question will win the book. So we'll recap is convince yourself, make a plan, start to implement that plan. Blood pressure will be high, you'll be sweaty, but it's part of the process and it's normal. And then the fifth one is look, based on my experience, it always comes if you are focused on ambition, it always comes together in the end. You might be kicking and screaming at the end, but it always comes together in the end. You must be determined to win. Even maybe what you think a win looks like might not be what it does at the end, but you would have done something, right? So I always say this, I didn't have to, I could have just been running my business. I didn't have to try and stretch myself and try and do business in Nigeria or do business across West Africa. I didn't have to start to want to advise governments about technology. I didn't have to do any of those things, but I decided that I convinced myself that I could and I should be able to do these things. I said, I could have just run my business, but I chose to stretch myself and stretch my capabilities. And so you can do it. And if you're determined, the thing is about determination and focus and ambition. It actually will take longer than you expect it to take. It will be harder than you think it will be. It will be more complex. At the end of the day, you would have built something, right? You would have built, even if in 2 years, you're a business that employs one person, you still started, you're still doing something. You're definitely a mile ahead of somebody who's still sitting there and still dreaming, right? And then once you achieve that and you make it happen, it gives you a sense of confidence. It gives you a sense of, I could do this. It gives you a sense. I remember the first time I was paid to speak at, paid to speak at a global event. And I think it was like first class, come and speak. And I was like, wow, right, okay. Business class flight, and then they paid me money. Somebody's going to pay me to come and speak. I speak for free. But part of that was, again, the confidence of I've achieved this and I can achieve something else and I can do it again and I can do it better. So by all means, celebrate your wins. The first time I got a 6-figure contract, which was early on in running my business, the first time I got a 6-figure contract. So a 6-figure contract is over 100. Was over 100,000. The first time, remember the first time I had gotten it, I had just left my job where I was making, I think my pay the whole year was 65,000. And then I started this business, and in one deal I made my whole annual salary plus something else. And one of the things I regret about that, I didn't celebrate it because it was a big thing. It's a huge thing. Like somebody was giving you, it was, I don't know, what was it, about 145,000, something like that. Yes, about 145,000. And a year before, I was running a business. I was working for somebody, and I was making about 60,000 a year, right? And so it was for me, it was wow. And I think that when these things happen, milestones in your business, milestones in the first customer to buy from you, the first time, celebrate those wins, because the journey is difficult and the path is hard. And you've got to, every time you have a win, celebrate it and then start over again. Because you know what, you will, if you want to grow in business, you will go through this process over time. You go through it again and I go through it again and again. Every time we stretch ourselves, every time we take a step forward. Sometimes you take a step forward and you're knocked back, and that's fine. This is part of the process. It's sort of cyclical. Understand that every time you do something big, every time you step out of your comfort zone, every time you push the boundaries of what you are capable of, you will go through this process. Once you're done and you've learned your lessons, you get some rest and it will happen again. So this is what I wanted to end the season with, saying, look, convince yourself, just start, go for it. The road will be rocky, the road will be hard, it will be painful. Even if you fail, you would have learned lessons from it. You would be better than somebody who didn't start at all. So thank you. 14 weeks with us. I haven't forgotten the book yet. So I'm not showing you the book. I talked about what the book was going to teach in terms of marketing, what the book was going to teach. If first person to actually write out the answer of what this book, The Blue Ocean Strategy, teaches, and why it's a relevant book. So you can't see the picture of the book anymore. It's why it's a relevant book, and answers it first and correctly will be able to pick up the book. I have had a lovely time hanging out with you guys. Still thinking about it. Excited for your stories and your journey. If you want to reach out to me, go to www.ethelcoffee.com. Ethel D Coffee on Facebook, Ethel Coffee on LinkedIn, and please reach out and tell me your stories and what you've learned and how it's impacting your entrepreneurial journey. It was exciting to have you. You will not see me next week. We will be on a break until we decide what we're going to do, whether we do a season 2 or not. Even if we do a season 2, it will definitely